Bum 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 bum. The Peter Dislike Show. Bum 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 bum. Well, happy July 4th. Tomorrow I'll probably go on a long fast. I love intermittent fasting in memorial of things, and tomorrow will be the 35th anniversary of Iran Air Flight of 655. During the Iran-Iraq War, the U.S. accidentally shot down an Iranian civilian flight. It will be 35 years tomorrow, and obviously the 4th of July. Also, the 4th of July is also Malia Obama's birthday. I think she'll turn 25 this year, and also it's obviously our country's birthday as well. Our country turns 247 years old. Now, I hope you will join me in declaring independence on your personal lifestyle and also on all the excesses that come with living in the United States. And one of the big reasons I want to leave this country is that we spend 6.5% of our income on food, right? Even today in 2023, we eat on average, I think, 4,000 calories a day. And on top of that, we throw another 4,000 calories a day into the landfill, apparently, right, per capita. And we're worried about 5 or 10% inflation on our food when we have all this excess food, right? And don't try to talk to any. You know what the quickest way to get somebody angry is? To tell them that they're eating too much or that they might have to cut back because of this coming recession, or maybe even talk about how much food they throw away. Oh my God, there is nothing that will quickly anger an American than to point out their eating habits. And this is regardless of what that person does for a living or their background. I've had friends, I dated a girl who worked as a nutritionist, and even she became defensive. Let me give you an example. She thought everything could be eaten in moderation. And I told her, in theory, yes, but when was the last time you saw anybody successfully eat stuff in moderation? I mean, in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, look at yourself, right? She didn't make that connection, obviously. And I explained to her, I really don't think there are food deserts because even in so called food deserts, people could eat less, right? Have you ever heard of the word less? And she disagreed with me. She claimed that you don't know what nutritional deficiencies these people have. They might literally die if they cut back their food to half as much. And I said, well, okay, maybe cut out the soda then. I dare you to find one person who has ever died because they switched from soda to water just because they didn't have other nutrients. Oh, it's the same thing. And so, seriously, name one person. But I didn't argue with her about that. But it's a symptom of, a heroin addict would probably believe that they would die if they stopped using heroin, right? Same thing with meth, right? I guess alcohol, you could probably die if you stopped abruptly, but there are definitely ways to get off of it. But all of these people, or cigarettes, right? Nobody can die from quitting cigarettes. You might believe you're going to die the first day you get off, right? But it really goes to show how ingrained the concept of excess is, right? I was at a board game meetup a couple nights ago when I got grossed out at this. I was at an IHOP, and this guy guzzled an ice cream sundae. I want to say it's at least 32 ounces, and he guzzled it down, and I had to turn away because it was grossing me out. I couldn't watch. I'm still recovering from long COVID. Aside from the fact that I'm outright allergic to milk, I would get skin rashes. I'm just recovering from long COVID. I haven't had an appetite that big for at least a month and a half now, so I couldn't really watch it. I turned away, and when he realized what I was turning away from, he was like, "What the fuck are you turning away from? This is normal. You're such a slow eater or something like that." And so I'm looking at the size of his body. I'm looking at his ice cream sundae. And so I just kind of look back and forth to see if he would get the message. Oh, well, I don't care if he gets the message or not. But unfortunately, I often wonder what's going to happen when there's serious supply disruptions and Coca-Cola stops showing up on the shelves. I would imagine it wouldn't take that many days before riots would break out. Thank God all of the supply disruptions were on stuff that people aren't typically addicted to, right? Eggs, they might have had to pay a little bit more for gas, or they might have to work remotely. People love that, fortunately, right? Um, and I often wonder what's going to happen when there's a supply or a strike at McDonald's, right? If all the workers went on strike for 2 or 3 days, I could only imagine all the shock to people's addictive personalities, right? What's going to happen when uh, they're there's plenty of food on the shelf, right? And people can't find their own favorite foods, right? I can only imagine, right? And we spend 6.5% of our income on food. Go to some other countries where people are very well off. Thank you very much. Some of the happier countries in the world, they still spend 20-30%, right? I come from Taiwan, which is statistically happier than the United States. We spend 21% of our income on food. Japan, which has the longest life expectancy in the world, spends 15%. And so I want to say they're very malleable to what they're willing to eat on an everyday basis, right? And nobody has starved there, right? Nobody will starve in the United States. They'll be deprived of their favorite food. Now, I was talking to my friend at the board game meetup, and I explained to him that nobody's going to starve. We were talking about the upcoming stagflation and what we were doing to prepare. And I mentioned nobody's going to starve. And my friend said, well, yeah, they might not be able to eat as well. And I corrected her. I said, correction, people won't be able to indulge in their favorite foods. They might be forced to eat actually a little bit healthier. And she got very angry and defensive about that. See, I said that the quickest way to make any American angry and defensive is to point out their eating habits, much more so than their drug habits, their drinking habits. It's very reminiscent. 20 years ago, the quickest way to get anybody get a smoker angry was to talk about any upcoming indoor smoking bans that you support, right? Nowadays, it's pretty much banned everywhere because outdoors, you got to be more than a certain number of feet from the door. And then obviously you got two different buildings and there's no space in between to smoke, right? But 20 years ago, bring this up. Oh my God, people will start a fight. 20 years ago, if cigarette companies went on strike for any reason, it wouldn't take many days for riots to break out, right? I would imagine. Anyways, happy July 4th. Declare your independence from all the excesses in American ways. This is the Peter Dislike Show. Bum 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 bum. The Peter Dislike Show. Bum 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 bum. Let's do that again. Bum 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 bum. The Peter Dislike Show. Bum 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 bum.